The very mention of this terrifying race once brought fear to all who heard it. But now we can all rest easy, as our own forces now occupy their very homeworld of Char.
What's up, lore masters? The Brood Wars was a conflict named due to the Zerg Civil War between Sarah Kerrigan and former Hivemind Cerebrit Dagoth. Interestingly, this name would be widely used in the Caprulu sector, but was also known as the Galactic War for Domination by the United Earth Directorate. Ironically, the UED designation would have the more appropriate naming convention, as the war brought all of the major factions of the Caprulu sector into the conflict, as well as Earth's own forces. Among the many changes the Brood Wars brought, innovation would play a pivotal role both during the conflict and after it. In order to survive, the Terrans of the Caprulu sector learned that they would need to construct different and specialized vehicles, or outright steal designs from that of the new United Earth Directorate. One of the first transformations of Terran combat was the creation of the battlefield medic. While medics in the midst of combat had been toyed with by the Confederacy during the Guild Wars, the Brood Wars finally saw them utilized to a wide capacity. The unrealistically high death rates of Marines meant that Terran armies were being overrun. To stem this, nurses were given CMC armor similar to that of Marines and outfitted with the most advanced medicines. In time, their armor would be upgraded to include a shield that would store vital medical components behind it to better assist the Marines. Given the United Earth Directorate's advanced technologies, their medics would additionally have nano-anesthetic and lasers that could be used for on-site surgeries. Ultimately, this technology would be assimilated by the Caprulu Terrans, who would reverse engineer it and use it for their own methods. Even with the creation and advancement of medics, battle losses for Terrans continued to be extensive. The Terran Dominion started looking into other ways of better safeguarding its troops after the Brood War. This resulted in the creation of the G-22 medical transport, also known as the medevac on the battlefield. Interestingly, the concept and practice of using transports as mobile hospitals had been in practice since the days of the Terran Confederacy. However, it was generally only employed by individual regiments that did their own modifications. Most armies utilized dropships for getting troops to and from battlefields quickly, and little else. However, the Dominion developed the G-22 as a way to ensure troops would continue to stay in the battle and fight long after they should have. The dropship would now have a complete medical bay along with triage center located towards the back. The advancement of the medevac meant that beams and nanoprobes could instantly heal damage to people as soon as the injury occurs. An artificial intelligence would be perfected for the dropship, allowing simultaneous healing of two officers at the same time. The medevac would keep its original intent of its predecessor by allowing for the transportation of troops and heavy machinery. Though, while advanced, there would still be budget constraints such as a single gravity tube to deploy troops, and additionally, the cost-prohibitive nature of these vessels meant that field medics remained a staple of Terran militaries. One of the few ships to actually be uniquely designed by the United Earth Directorate and introduced to the Caprulu sector was that of the Valkyrie. The Valkyrie was an attempted answer to the Terran military's inability to field efficient anti-air defenses. The vessel was built tough with extra armor, allowing it to take quite a beating. The vessel uses high-altitude, long-operating, or HALO for short, cluster rockets firing in salvos of 8. The rockets fire in a dispersal pattern that causes massive damage to not only the primary target, but its allies. While the vessel works on paper, Valkyrie Wraith squadrons are hard to handle given how agile the Wraiths are versus the slowness of the Valkyrie. While the Valkyrie was devastating to slower, lightly armored opponents, it ultimately couldn't stand up against faster vehicles. Though Valkyries can be seen in limited circumstances with the Terran Dominion even today, the use of them is quite limited. The Viking is a flying death trap for the pilot. The A2 Viking Armored Mechanical Hybrid, Viking for short, has the ability to both be a ground unit as well as a fighter, though never combining the two as that would make too much sense. With the weaknesses of the Wraith and Valkyrie becoming ever more apparent and their inability to work well together in squadrons, Terran Dominion engineers went back to the drawing board to try and find something that could be used in both capacities. These loyal Dominion citizens gained inspiration from the Terran Confederacy's Worm. The Worm had been a multi-support vehicle but was extremely sluggish and thus never seen in massive use. However, based on these designs, they were able to put together the Viking. With the ability to both conduct airborne operations and ground assaults, the Viking is one of the most versatile weapons in the Terran arsenal. The central area of the vehicle has a large reactor that powers the electrical systems, ensures the VTOL works for hovering, and provides torque for locomotion. The previously mentioned VTOL system includes a set of thrusters on the underbelly which allow for stabilization and flight. There would also be 4 low bypass turbines that generate the thrust and propulsion. The ground assault mode takes its spirit based on that of the siege tank, a heavily armored vehicle that has massive armor. The pilot seat has more than double the straps, pads, and packing to account for the extreme scenarios a pilot has to go through. Additionally, the interior of the vehicle is soundproof due to how loud the vessel operates, especially while using its Gatling guns. One of the only vehicles to have all of its parts virtually interchangeable, most all components of the Viking can be replaced by other parts on the same ship. The vessel was built with the thought that specialization was a detriment. As discussed, the rigors of this death machine and its transformation from one mode to another generally kills most pilots. The ship comes standard with MT-50 Lancer torpedoes and twin Gatling guns. The torpedoes could be upgraded for more powerful Ripwave missiles, and it can even be given a more powerful Phobos-class weapon system, which gives improved loadouts and adds range to both the anti-air and ground weapons. But this turns out to be amazingly cost prohibitive, and the standard Vikings are generally the ones seen in service, not these upgraded ones. Viking pilots are provided helmets that have visors that can provide extra support when in air combat, though the helmets aren't necessary. The cockpit features a HUD with the standard gauges, targeting systems, and terrain mapper. It also has a detailed 3D wireframe of the vehicle itself, showing where damage has occurred so the pilots know what is operable and what isn't. Additionally, the vehicle has a rear-view camera and emergency circuit that will cut off power to the weapons if they overload, though this can be overridden by the pilot. Should a vehicle overheat due to this, the resulting flash is called a Heimdallr, given how bright it is. The Viking is one of the most advanced and terrifying vehicles that the Terrans have currently. It is something that is used widespread across militaries that can afford it, and wow. I didn't know how much lore was in StarCraft. It really puts Star Trek Online to shame. We'll be turning this into a 2-parter for my sanity, so stay tuned when I finish out all of the vehicles of the Terran militaries. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Lore Reloaded.